Morning, people. It's Monday morning, July 13th. Just before I got to go to work here, I'd just like to read this article that I found in Before It's News. And the article is entitled, Jade Helm Death Squads Inserted into American Communities. Is it just a drill? And this was posted on July 12th, yesterday, at 6:34 p.m. It's from the Dave Hodges, The Common Sense Show, Freeing America, One Enslavement at a Time, Tyranny Ahead. Our worst fears about Jade Helm are beginning to be realized. Back in March of 2015, many of us in the alternative media saw the inherent danger of the unconstitutional military drill called Jade Helm 15. Now we see that our concerns were well-founded as the more draconian parts of this drill are beginning to take shape. This article explores one aspect of Jade Helm, namely the use of covert death squads connected to this drill. Lord Monckton speaks out about global governance. Lord Christopher Monckton is not a stranger to the establishment of a tyrannical global government. It is Monckton's belief that world government will be formally rolled out under the guise of saving the environment. Monckton has been outspoken about how global governance has been secretly thrust upon humanity in this bold move of seizing absolute power through obtaining all wealth for a very small minority of men in the name of preserving the planet under the fiction we call man-made climate change. Lord Monckton acknowledges that his views sound extreme to the uninformed, but UN documents such as Agenda 21 make it clear that mankind is at the precipice of the implementation of a tyrannical and dictatorial global government. In a similar vein, Pastor Lindsey Williams has recently stated that the Pope is going to call for world governance in order to save the planet from so-called ravages of climate change. Williams has announced that his proclamation will take place at the Pope's address to the United Nations on September 25th, 2015. If Monckton and Williams are correct, then Jade Helm being rolled out onto American streets in advance of these proclamations bring a special significance. If you remember, there's a Walmart, this ain't the story, but it shows that Walmart truck where they're gutting out the Walmart, taking all of the shelving out and making way for new stuff when they're only there to be doing plumbing. Anyway, Marlon Brock of Big Springs, Texas, who demonstrated through this photo published on the Common Sense Show that Walmart was changing its ventilation system and was hauling away all shelving in the store, was allegedly closed to repair just plumbing in the bathrooms. Yesterday afternoon, Marlon sent me the following email. Dave, local news talk AM radio station announced yesterday, Friday, that beginning next week there will be 60 to 65 Jade Helm 15 soldiers in Martin County, or Stanton, Texas, involved in the Jade Helm 15 exercise. They also stated that many of them will be in uniform and carrying weapons, so do not be alarmed. They also stated that a number unknown will be undercover. The people out here are brain dead and care less about what is going on right in front of their faces. I have been watching the Midland Walmart, and they have completely redone the road in front of it as well as the parking lot. I have not seen any evidence that the plumbing was ever repaired. I will send you photos of the Jade Helm 15 and the Walmart next week when I hunt down the martial law soldiers. Marlon. Our profound thanks goes out to Marlon Brock for being a watchman on the Tower of Freedom. I want to call specific attention to the phrase. They also stated, the local media, that a number of unknown will be undercover. This is what Special Operation Forces do. By stealth, they sneak into an anticipated war zone and kidnap or assassinate high-priority targets. An example, this is what Steve Quayle has called the Red List for over 20 years. My summary concludes regarding the entire non-nefarious public service announcement in Midlands, bolstered by previous announcements by Jade Helm officials in earlier media accounts. Death squads are being inserted into American communities. A Houston Chronicle report stated that Jade Helm soldiers will blend in with local populations in an effort to test the effectiveness of infiltration techniques. Residents will be encouraged and commanded to report anything they deem suspicious during the Jade Helm drill. I had previously taken this information to my sources, and they confirmed that the Houston Chronicle report is referring to their insertion of simulated death squads into the selected American communities. This is the reason that Jade Helm is encouraging local citizens to report suspicious activities. This is the beta test for this operation. From an operational perspective, the fewer numbers of citizen reports the authorities receive, the more effective the intended stealth of the death squads would be judged to be. As opposed to more traditional military units, the special forces associated with Jade Helm would be the ones to carry out death squad executions of intended dissident target groups. And in other words, this is how the Red List executions will be carried out. The more covert that their presence is in a community will be, the less likely their intended targets would be spooked to make a run for safety. Fleeing individuals targeted for assassination is the reason why certain communities must be isolated, so that the intended targets cannot travel to congregate with fellow dissidents or be able to escape to final justice. In addition to military sources' insight on this issue, more confirmation for the use of death squads on American soil comes from our friend and colleague, Roger Brown. Roger has written extensively on the subject of American death squads and has presented this information on the Common Sense Show. The interview can be accessed here. Roger's written assessment of the death squads can be found here. Them are two little sites they have here on this article. Like I said, it's before it's news. You can go there. Marlon Brock's observation has much basis in fact. I wish it was a simple that we only had to worry about Jade Helm death squads. As I did the research for this article, it took a dramatic right turn. There's a remote Russian Spetsnaz facility in Botto, Missouri. 2 days ago, I reported that the Russians were training with Jade Helm personnel, and this was the reason that military placed a ban on embedded media coverage in the Jade Helm drills. Even Drudge got into the act. This was a very disturbing event. Then things went from bad to worse as I received the following email. Hello Dave, I queried John Moore here in Missouri about the validity of Russian Spetsnaz being trained and deployed throughout the United States. John confirmed that they were. Indeed, thousands of Spetsnaz here in the United States, and proceeded to tell me about a compound that was established as a drug and alcohol rehab on a 102-acre farm in a remote part of the Ozarks, specifically in Botto, Missouri. John also went on to talk about the experience that CSM Dan Page had when he was training with the Spetsnaz in Bosnia during the 1990s. The sergeant major said that part of the exercise in Bosnia was to go from house to house disarming the populace, which is pretty much standard operating procedures anymore. Interestingly, however, Sergeant Major Page said that when the Russians would have too much to drink, they would start letting out the real purpose behind their being in Bosnia, which was to serve as a training ground for the disarmament and takeover of America at some later date. There's an article in there about that. John Addison. The John Moore being referenced here is former Green Beret and current talk show host John Moore. John and I have appeared on many talk shows together, and yes, John Addison is currently that John Moore has first-hand knowledge about Russian Spetsnaz training on American soil. John Moore once told me that 2 teams of 8 Spetsnaz could take down the entire power grid for a city the size of Phoenix, or 4 million people. In the related article about the fake Russian alcohol rehab facility, the article states the following. New Life Rehab Facility, whose roots are in Russia, has operated from Bondo for about 3 years. Its existence is tucked away in the Ozark Hills and down a narrow country road off the highway. A 102-acre farm built in the hills far away from the bigger towns of Houston and Kabul. Few know it exists. The conclusion, why is Russian involvement in Jade Helm significant? Because they will not hesitate to kill Americans in death squad executions, political dissident extractions, and gun confiscations that are coming. Ask yourself, what good does it do for a nobody to know that a rehab facility exists? How many would they ever get? Clinics, clients, and patients. That is the point. There is another purpose. What are the Russians really doing here? Why are they involved in Jade Helm? And more important, why is their participation being covered up? Lord Monckton and Pastor Williams are warning against the rollout of global governance in the next several weeks. It is beginning to look more and more like Jade Helm will be the American-based enforcement arm of the conversion of America into America. It's happening, folks, and it's happening fast. I got to get ready to go to work. Make sure you get your non-perishable food stores up and your water, and of course your means to protect them. Don't send me no money. Buy that stuff that you're going to need. Thanks. Have a wonderful day. I will too.